What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we are here with Heimoth and St. Vincent of SETH. Great to be able to talk with all of you today. Thank you for being here.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
It's so awesome to have you here. So I was just talking about the brand new album Le Morsure du Christ. This really was, I think, one of the best black metal albums to come out, I think, in the last couple of years. I really want to know, like, what the thought process was behind the making of this album. Was your intention to just continue from what you were doing on The Howling Spirit, or were you trying to maybe do something new for Seth and step into more new territory?
It was actually to do something new compared to the previous album, the 2013 album. But at the same time, it was also a faithful sequel to album one, which was released back in the days in the end of the 90s. So it's kind of a kind of a circle that we're doing currently. But yeah, we are back with French lyrics. We're back with everything that actually made the history of the band and the sense of the bands when we did release the first album called Les Blessures de l'âme in 1998. And I said this album is made to be, an open sequel to this first album.
Oh, being that it, yeah, being that it's a sequel to the first album, like, does that at all, like, is there any context or maybe anything relating to the albums such as Era Decay or Divine X or The Excellence as well, or is it just the direct sequel to Les Blessures de l'âme?
No, that is definitely a direct sequel to the first album. And throughout the band history, we've gone through many different kind of black metal music. Album two, which was the Excellence, was more in some kind of dissection vine. Album three and four, as you said, Eradicate and also Divine X were much more experimental and possibly more modern. But that one is definitely in the path of the first album. So basically, when we started the writing, we actually knew where we were going. Definitely.
Hmm. And do you feel that maybe like a listener, in order to get the full context of the new album, Le Message to Christ, they should listen to the first album to like maybe get a better idea of the story and an idea of the concept in a way? Like, is the album almost like a Lord of the Rings in a way?
Yeah, it's kind of funny what you're saying because currently what we're seeing is that on the season of this eShop, we can see that a lot of people are getting interested suddenly with to this first album, and actually, I'm not that surprised because people are getting a bit more aware of what we used to do at the beginning. But in Europe, many people do know this first album, especially in France, of course. And I'm just glad that a lot of people are getting to know what we started doing at the beginning.
Hmm. Now,
I think that's interesting, and that I think between the two albums, the debut albums and the new one, there is a strong bond, and really, like it's funny, like what you said, like a sequel, like a kind of thriller, like a movie. And I think it's very interesting if you like this new album to listen to the first one and to see the connection between both and the 25 years that passed.
well, St. Vincent, this was actually your first album with the band, right? The full length?
Uh, First studio album. Yeah. I made a live album, actually, the Blessure de l'âme live, but it's the first studio one. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
So were you kind of like looking at the previous material being of Seth and being like, okay, this is how I have to sing, this is what the sound is about, or being that you've played with so many other bands such as Black Lodge and The Arrival of Satan and so much, were you maybe kind of allowed to bring in a little bit of your own mix into Seth?
I think what was interesting for Heimoth, it's that I was bringing my own personality and style in the band. I obviously, because it was a sequel of the first album, I obviously got into the lyrics, to the spirits, and it was the first base to work and to develop new lyrics. Like a tradition, I wanted to follow this tradition, but as well I wanted to bring my own personality I wanted with Heimoth, we decided to make the lyrics more, the vocals, sorry, more aggressive, more black metal, and so I had some liberties on it, and it was really great. And as well, I wrote the lyrics, so I was free to do what I want. I wanted to do the sequel of the Blessure de l'âme, but to put as well more experience, because they were quite young at that time when they released the album. Now 25 years later, older, more experienced, more mature, so I wanted to make lyrics with more deeper lyrics with more achievements, and that's why I choose to write all the lyrics in French Alexandrines. That was a very strict rules to make them, and to pay tribute to former French poetry.
It's so fascinating too on how you were able to kind of bring life to an album. I mean, not to make you all feel old, but like I wasn't even in grade school when the first album came out yet, so I was still a little boy. And I think it's really gonna like have elements of the past. I think it is gonna be like a time warp in a way. It's gonna be like a trip down to the past, but also a trip to the future. I think that's really the best way to describe it. I think it goes through multiple tests of time.
Yeah, I like it. I like the way you describe it, because it's not just a repetition of the past. It's really we went back to the spirit, but with all the experience we went through, all the different our experience as human beings, our experience as musicians, and it's really a mature way to look at the past, to have with experience, and to bring back the spirit. So it's a door open on the past and on the future as well, I think.
Do you feel
it's funny? It's funny how much past experience has actually shaped the new sound of the band. Because paradoxically, we're not moving backwards; we're actually moving forwards. But with the past experience that we've gained throughout the history, and to be honest, I'm not sure that I would have been able to write such an album if this album had been the timely sequel of the first one. If this album had been released in 2000, I guess things would have been different.
Yeah, well, I think whether you realize it or not, your experiences and your life is going to influence things one way or another. So who knows if like maybe you would have been able to write this the way that you did back then. You know, we all grow and develop. Your life experiences make you who you are and determine who you are as an artist, whether you realize it or not. So I personally couldn't hear this album any other way. I think that this album was very indulging, so I wouldn't change anything about it. I'm glad you decided to make a sequel in 2020, 2021 rather than 2000, because I probably maybe wouldn't have even discovered it in first grade. Do you feel that this concept that you're exploring, obviously, you know, it determines the lyrics for the band, but do you feel that maybe having this sort of story element and, you know, citing French poetry and all this, could this also influence the music itself in a way?
I wrote the lyrics after the music was written, so I wouldn't say that.
I think obviously I see Vincent's point, because I think it just works in one way, because we actually started with the music, and this is how the best black metal albums have been written. So why changing? I think lyricism takes a huge part in black metal in general, and this is what we've managed to do. But with this concept that we've added, I think we push the black metal even further in that it's not only music with screaming on top. It's much more than that. I think the lyrics actually add a real concept, as you said, and also some kind of atmosphere as well, because the way we've mixed the album has put on front the vocals. Unlike the rest of the music that are really homogeneous and they work together, what you feel straight from the beginning when listening to this album is the vocals first. And this was a choice that we deliberately did, And that is also why I think that is also what makes our album singular. The way that we do deal, the way how we deal with the vocals and the lyrics.
Yeah. Well, I think what's also fascinating is, some people like to listen to their music randomly, like on shuffle, as I say. But for listening to this album, there is such like a linear aspect behind it. Like you need to start off with the title track, La Misère de Christ, and you need to, move on to Metal Noir after that. You need to move on to Sacrifice de Sang after that. Like I feel like there's no real in between. And I think you do a good job at like making the music lead into another. It doesn't seem like it's just song one, song two, song three. I almost feel like that this album is almost like one big song in a way, or like one big adventure. And there's only one way to narrate it, and which I think is what makes an album strong to begin with.
That's a great comment. Yeah. Thank you, Vincent.
I totally agree. It's what we can call a concept album, and we worked on the coherence, on the lyrics, on the music, on the ambiances, and so thank you very much for your comment, because it's exactly what we aim to do at the beginning. So that's perfect.
Awesome. Yes, we had some difficulties to actually display the songs together. Because though they all sound quite similar, they can sound quite similar. I think in the end they are not. So it was a bit of a struggle for us to find out what the right order could have been.
For me, the order was clear at the beginning, thanks to the lyrics maybe, but we had to work together in the bands because we had different, indeed, opinions on it. But for me, it was clear since the beginning. There was no other order possible, and it goes as well because as I wrote the lyrics, it was more coherent, even with the story told. I would say.
Mm-hmm. Well, is this story that you are incorporating in Seth's music, is this almost like a self-portrait or maybe a representation of who you personally are, or is this exploring, because I know you cited French poetry involved with it, but like is it almost like art comes from art, so is this almost kind of like you're responding to something, or does your personal experiences also maybe ever influence how you write lyrics or how you write the music itself?
I think for every artist, the basic the base the roots of all his arts and creations are actually what he lived through. He has been living through, and all his past experiences, and it's something very deep and personal. But with art, at least I'm trying to with SETH to bring everything up to not a personal level, but something more general, more universal, I would say. And I wrote the lyrics around the topic and of obviously Notre Dame de Paris blaze, and the demise and the end of the spirituality and religion in Western world. But obviously, if you write between the lines, there is always something very personal on each song, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel like maybe your music could be open to interpretation, or is the goal to engage the listener into the story as much as the music?
Well, actually, I work so much on the lyrics. To be honest, there is okay, it's in French. I'm sorry for the English native speakers, but there are different levels of comprehension. There is. I worked very much, and thanks to French poetry, you can work on this kind of structure. There is a first level of very raw, like dealing with images and sensation, emotions. But there is also always, like, even in the title, double meanings, and even sometimes three different meanings. Quite proud to have achieved that with this album. For example, in French, the title has two meanings. You have a first meaning that is the bite of Christ, la morsure du Christ. But phonetically, it's a figure of style in French that is called a cacanphaton. And it's another meaning. It's as well the certain death of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And I try with French poetry to work a lot on this kind of double meaning all the time.
it almost seems like you could enter this album from multiple angles, and that determines the path that you can interpret it. I kind of wanted to also talk a little bit about like the other projects that you were all involved in, because like Heimoth, I know you've played with Sensanum and Reverence and Decrepit Spectre and so much, and Saint Vincent. I know you play with Black Lodge, the Arrival of Satan and stuff. Do your other projects maybe bring new ideas to incorporate into Seth, or do you try to leave the other projects that you were also involved with kind of like separate entities of your creativity?
I think we have different experiences, and that in the end of the day, it makes what Seth is today. Of course, like throughout the years, I've been involved in many projects. Mostly, they were mostly black metal project, and this has possibly enabled today's album to be what it is. But yeah, I'm not sure what Vincent thinks about that, because I think the projects he's been involved into are also very different from mine.
The thing is that I think it's very good that personally I've been involved in very different projects with always black metal, but different approach of black metal, different views of black metal. So I can concentrate really on I don't feel like I need to put all my inspiration and ideas in Seth. I can just concentrate on what is the best for the band, I think, because I can express other feelings or other artistic needs in other bands. So I think it gave me experience and liberty to just concentrate on the pure spirit of Seth. I think it's good.
Mm-hmm. I kind of wanted to get involved. This question might be kind of cliche, but I really wanted to have like a little bit of a discussion about this, because what exactly makes black metal nowadays? Because when you compare on the early days of Mayhem and Dark Throne and Emperor and Dissection, and you look at how bands such as Life Lover, brought in some aspects behind it, and bands bring in, and then you look at Behemoth, and you look at a lot of 1349 and so much. Like, it almost seems like black metal has evolved so much in both its sound and even its context as well. Is there something that all black metal though has to have in it that would make it classified as black metal? I'm curious, in the eyes of Seth, what makes something black metal?
Well, I think this is how you create atmospheres. I think that black metal should be played with your soul. If you play death metal, then you play with your guts. That's about it.
Wow, that was a great quote. I gotta write that down. That's the line of this interview. Death metal's for your guts, black metal's for your soul. That is, you gotta trademark that quote.
I wanted to tell some stuff and to explain my views on black metal, but Heimoth said something extremely great, a good resume. And what is great is that we discovered black metal when we were listening to death metal. We were listening to death metal. That was the most extreme trend at that time. And then black metal came. And that's very good that Heimoth defined black metal using death metal, because it was really like back in the days. It was so different, so new. With death metal, as he said, just like with your guts or something aggressive that has been to most extreme. And suddenly black metal came, and it bring at that time some mysticism. It was really like something religious that's thanks to the ambience and thanks to this focus on the soul, as said Heimoth, but his sentence is so great, the best way to resume it.
And it seems like the definition of it is going to change so much more as the years go by, because you're going to have, like a lot of people in my generation, they discovered black metal through a band like Cradle of Filth, for example, which, I know to a lot of Puritans, that's not even black metal, but like, it just, you have bands like Cradle of Filth, and then you have Dimmu Borgir that brings in like symphonic elements to it. And then you have like a lot of these post-metal bands like Death Heaven has been a lot of people's gateway drug into black metal. So it almost seems like the definition and the idea is going to change more and more as it moves along.
Yeah, I agree. I would say we obviously wanted to come back to the first original spirit. And when you say, it's getting more, black metal became at the beginning became more symphonic thanks to Dimmu Borgir and so. One of the first black metal bands I listened to was Emperor, and it has already keyboards, but the keyboards were not as symphonic as Limburger, and so it was really deep and very, very dark. And when we wrote the new album, we wanted to be more in that spirit, to stick more to that first original spirit of black metal, and even before the bands like Cradle of Filth and Limburger became to be more symphonic, as you said. So I got lost with your question, but
there was no question. It was just you know.
In the end of the day, I'm not sure there's much comparison to do with us to Dimmu Borgir or Cradle of Filth, or even post black metal. I'm not sure we can actually be pigeonholed in one specific black metal. What we did create in the 90s was our own identity, though we did borrow a lot from the Scandinavian scene. We also used some French lyrics, and that was also what made us quite singular at the time. So we did manage to create our identity very early back in the 90s. What we're doing now is to provide the audience with the same identity, but with in a much more aggressive way. And in the writing process, what we've been trying to do is also to avoid falling into that kind of trap that would have been to write synths like Dimmu Borgir and also Cradle of Filth. That is something we didn't want to. And in the end, this is what makes us quite specific, musically speaking.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my favorite yeah, you were saying?
Yeah, I would say the new album, I would add it's a snapshot of former 90s black metal translated for the new generation, I would say.
Perfect. And I mean, one of my favorite black metal bands is Life Lover, and I mean, they bring like elements of like post rock, and like, I mean, there are some songs that could be somebody called them like the emo black metal band in a way. Like, I mean, it seems like black metal's always open to bring in so many different different genres combined into one. I feel like black metal really is like the ultimate smorgasbord. Watch Celine Dion do a collaboration with Necro Butcher one day.
I would love that. I'm waiting.
Yeah. And the final question I wanted to ask you is, and I usually ask just about every black metal band I've interviewed this, but going by the names of Heimoth and Saint Vincent, like, you know, these pseudonyms that we all go by in black metal, like whether it is, you know, Necro Butcher or Nergal or, you know, any of these artists, like, do you feel that maybe both in the music and on the stage you're maybe portraying a character or somebody that's outside of who you personally are? Or is Heimoth and St. Vincent just an extension of who you are, or maybe like another side that you don't express?
But personally, no, I would say it's a part of me. Of course, it's not the whole part. I'm not on stage. Obviously, you are concentrating on one aspect of you. But I wouldn't say personally, all artists, I think, are different. I'm not Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, this kind of type. It's just I'm expressing myself, a part of myself, overdriving a part of myself, I would say. My stage name is not Necro Butcher. I'm not, cutting flesh and eating dead people. It's Saint Vincent. My first name in my real name is Vincent. So it's just a continuation, even with my nickname, of what I am really, and Saint Vincent, because I had a Catholic education, and it's a continuity, and I make music really like a religion, like a sorcery, like religion, like a very with the mystic side. And so it's for me, my nickname is not so weird or so esoteric. It's really part of me, and sometimes even in my work, I'm asking people to call me Saint Vincent. So you see, it's there is a strong mix. I'm actually the way I am, like for the fans I meet or on stage. I'm not, once again, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And Heimoth, are you considered?
Of course, I have my own family name and my own name and also my nickname. which makes different names, but I only have one soul again. So though there must be different aspects, I'm just the same person in the end.
Yeah, because sometimes like I've always wondered that like sometimes when you when we create or when we play live, it almost seems like you are detaching yourself from the gravity of reality, and you are kind of like expressing something that like you can't like. I mean, if somebody's going to work with corpse paint, by all means do it. I have a whole new level of respect for you, but like it just seems like that this creativity, like, and especially with this new album, I feel like it alters a reality and changes your senses in a way that it almost feels like that, you know, when if I were to see Seth on stage, which I have yet to see live, but it almost seems like it's going to be a different experience than just the conversation that we're simply having with each other. Like I'm going to see you in a different way.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. The thing is that, as said, Heimoth, you do black metal with your soul. So, and as I said, I'm using St. Vincent because I think black metal is something, it's a religious experience. And it's like when you're going to the mass, you are not speaking like, or any ritual, any cult, you are not speaking or acting like normal. You have to enter a deeper kind of mindness, a deeper kind of reality. And then you have to close some of, you have to change your mind. It's a work of the mind. It's magic. And you are not doing magic like just speaking like we are now, which is great, by the way. But you have to work on yourself, work on your soul, and change the reality around you. It's really a magician work. And so that's why you can have a normal life. And on stage, you are doing a certain work. You have to transmit emotions and change reality for the listeners and for yourself. So you change yourself, you transform yourself. It's really a kind of werewolf as well or something. It's really magic. And changing yourself, changing the way you're speaking, changing the way you are sending on the listeners and on the audience some magic and some new emotion and a new real world they are coming in.
Yeah. So before we go, I want to thank you both so much for your time today and for such a great conversation. It was great to be able to talk with you about this album, and I really can't wait for more people to hear it. Just, is there anything else that you would like to promote for the release of this album? Is there a chance that when this godforsaken pandemic is behind us, that you could bring Seth to the States?
So first, same here. I've been enjoying this interview a lot. Thank you for the great questions. Actually, we've played many times in Canada. We even had a whole tour in Quebec and also Ontario, I think. So we'll be very glad that at some point we end up playing in Northern America or anywhere in the US would be great, especially in New York would be awesome.
Oh man, we want to see you at our like underground clubs at St. Vitus or something like that, and just I think you'll create it. But with this symphonic elements incorporated in here, maybe you could do a show at Radio City or Carnegie Hall. Be the first black metal band to play Radio City Music Hall. Definitely be different from the Christmas show.
Yeah, hopefully.
But thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Heimoth and St. Vincent of Seth. Be sure to check out the brand new album out on Season of Miss, Le Morsure de Christ. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time.